Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
I'm here, brother. How are you?
I'm doing good.
What's new in Kevin's world? How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good, although jealous. I can't really have beer right now, so
Oh
I'm
man,
jealous. I can't. You know,
I'm sipping on an MK
MK still
Ultra.
got that.
Yeah, man.
Can't believe that cover hasn't fallen apart. Or have you made several of them since?
My wife made me one, and I don't use it all the time. It just basically for a beer that I have with the show.
Yeah, there you go. I will be
Yeah.
sticking to Gatorade for at least the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So hopefully beer again soon. But feeling good. What's going on with you, Tim?
Oh, it's the season of the making of the money and
Yeah.
working in the sun and literally kind of running all over the country now. Like I got some projects like I got to go out to someplace in Massachusetts near Boston. Like for
Nice.
yeah, it's kind of wild. Like
All over the place.
it's kind of neat. I'm kind of excited. Like I'm gonna be in another country practically. Well, like not New York. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Massachusetts. I mean, what is it? Western Mass? Because like
Eastern. You
Eastern.
practically can't get. I'm gonna be right by like New Hampshire and
Oh,
Vermont.
okay. So you're gonna be way out there.
Yeah.
I say like Western Mass is basically New York. Like I've been
Mm.
out there. It's like
I got no use for that. I'm already in New York. I know what it's like.
that's out there. It's actually a different experience.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, right on, man. But all right, so we got a few things we want to talk about on tonight's show. We want to talk about the Florida ban on lab grown meat.
Yeah. Populist authoritarianism for the win. Actually, it's a win for democracy, Kevin.
It's a win for democracy. it's a win for certain types of farmers. That's for sure.
Oh, big ag. I get it.
Yeah,
that's cool.
And so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some local New York State stuff.
Yeah.
And
do you see the Q on my hat, Kevin? I'm prepared for this show.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it's a dolphin and it came from Queensland, but it's got a big Q. QAnon showing some support, giving a shout out to my man Trump. Whatever.
Is that still even a thing?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. It just was so affiliated with Trump that I thought since we're going to be ostensibly arguing a little bit, probably.
Yeah, we're gonna be talking about our guy Donald Trump, who's now embracing the Libertarian Party.
God bless him, man.
Yeah, no, he's certainly possibly going to be at the convention. We'll see. We'll see if it actually like pans out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I on this whole, I've got a whole article, Kevin, in USA Today that when we get into this lab grown meat thing, it's kind of interesting. Like the name that shall not be spoken, libertarianism, is at the front and center of the article. It's mentioned like 17,000 times in one article.
Okay, yeah, let's talk about it. All right, so we're gonna head in. We're gonna talk about all that stuff. Maybe we'll get to some weird news too, because it was a weird week for a handful of different items. So we'll see what we get to. So let's head in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Now, an hour of clarity for exhausted people of our nation mired in toxic partisanship. Left versus right, us versus them. While we pay to keep our politicians fighting, how do we, the people, rise up and solve the great challenges of our time? We do it by embracing freedom and liberty. There may be no such thing as a free lunch, but this hour is as close as it gets. Welcome to A Free Solution.
All right, welcome to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
I'm here, Kevin. I'm excited about talking about like cultured meat products and some local New York news that actually I got an interesting one I want to get out there. It's something I've talked about in the past. You've got some stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna run through like the meat story down in Florida.
Yeah.
You know,
we
our
gotta talk
right
about
to
that.
eat whatever franken meat we want.
Yeah,
And
man.
and so like a whole bunch of like local stuff. So I think we're gonna run through a whole bunch of stuff in the second segment. So we got like a couple New York stories, local stories, and then we're gonna talk about the Libertarian Party and their interesting new strategy to draw attention to itself, relating to Donald Trump.
Well,
Donald Trump, stay look, WYSL audience, stay tuned. If you want to know Donald Trump's latest speaking engagement, it's with the Libertarian Party.
it's gonna be epic, Kevin.
So
We're gonna fundraise off of it. We're bringing eyes to us. My libertarian crud is not threatened by the populist authoritarian Donald J. Trump. Just not. Like I'm solid.
so we're gonna talk about that. So stay listening for the third segment. We're gonna talk about that then. But first, we're going to talk about lab grown meats. The state of Florida, Governor Ron DeSantis recently signed this bill, and the Florida legislature, of course, have now banned the sale of synthetic meat in Florida, lab grown meat in Florida, except for astronauts. They did make an exception. You can sell to NASA. But
and they'll buy it, man, because they're all in on it.
Yeah. I mean, like if they could discover a process to grow meat, in space, it's probably easier and cheaper than like trying to get like a cow to adapt to 0G. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean,
like,
look, if I was in space,
cows ain't gonna do good in space.
if I was in space, I would eat lab grown meat. I would. I promise you, I would be happy.
Yeah, if you're in space, you'd be like, yeah, that's fine. But like down here on Earth, you're like, yeah, just give me a real cow.
Yeah. I like the cow's filtering in the environment into its body and then
filtering in all the antibiotics and all the hormones and the.
So that's actually a persuasive piece of this discussion, right? Like that they are saying this is antibiotic free, GMO free, cultured meat cells that
supposedly
they somehow rapidly turn into and cultivate into the right amount of fat, the right amount of meat, and something about it freaks me right out. I'm not like, look, maybe.
Like briefly, let's talk about like what it is like. And I just retweeted a thread on this. Now I'll share the link in the show notes and in the comments if anyone wants to like read up on like what one of these companies said to the FDA about how their process works. But basically, they take like some stem cells and like some cells from like a chicken or whatever animal they're trying to grow, and then they kind of run through a few cycles and figure out like which ones are going to work for this process, which chicken or cow DNA is going to work. And then they have a culture that they can build from. And then they, differentiate these cells. So like the different like muscles and tissues and fats that, you would get from a cut of chicken, but without like the entire process of growing an entire chicken with all the organs and, feathers and everything else. You just grow the cut of meat that you want. I mean, and they basically, in this case, like they haven't scaled it up yet, but they're basically like 3D printing, like, like a chicken breast.
I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, I think it's pretty accurate. That's an accurate assessment. They do target rapid growing cells for this experiment in food, presentation, this food development. That does in fact concern me. Because like honestly, lots of problems with targeting fast growing cells, right? That so I have a couple concerns besides just the fast growing cells. Like fast growing cells in the human body generally turn into a disease, right?
Right. I know people worry like you're basically eating like chicken tumors, right? Like,
well, that's okay. Thank you.
But like, is that like an actual safety factor or just an ick factor? Because I think that like so much of this is just an ick factor.
Could be.
Like John Fetterman, like tweeting out, like, did you know this is how it's grown? And it's like some like stainless steel food equipment. And I'm like, okay, sure, whatever, man. Like that's how like a lot of food looks nowadays.
Yeah,
look, I mean, kind of looks like that.
That whole Star Trek food synthesizer thing comes to mind, But this isn't quite that. Like it's not harvesting molecules from the air and presenting it to me as chicken, which actually would be more attractive to me than capturing stem cells, bathing it in synthetic nutrients, and then like shaking a big vat and having like chicken breasts pop out the other end. Like
it's just an intermediate step. We're one step closer to a replicator. Like we're gonna get there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like that this is a step in that direction. And I'm not kidding, like a food replicator, I'm not as uncomfortable with that imaginary concept as I am with capturing stem cells, selecting rapid growing ones, and saying, "Hey, here's your meat. It tastes delicious." You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, supposedly it still tastes pretty good. Like, composition wise, it's like similar. Like a lot of the cuts that they used in samples of the FDA were like a little bit lower in fat, but like you could probably adjust that to get the fat ratio you want.
Sure.
I mean, because that's kind of a nice thing about it is you can get exactly like the type of like meats and like different, like if you want to make like a replication of like Wagyu beef, you could.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Yeah, no, and you will, which will kind of attack agriculture in a way, won't it? Like if everybody can just get Wagyu beef.
Then right, and I, like I'm sure people would still like want to buy the real thing, right? Like the process and the love and the culture that goes into like getting a really well raised, good and delicious cow, right?
Yeah.
But like the agriculture industry thing is like where I think this really comes in, because I know like in the press release that the Florida like executive branch put out, they specifically talk about how this is done basically to protect farmers, right? Like this is
they're honest.
It's like fully like cronyism. Like, hey, we're doing this because like the existing ag industry was freaked out by it, and they didn't say that verbatim, but it's implied that the existing industry is freaked out by it, and we're trying to save jobs. We're trying to save the farmers' jobs. Well, it's not really a good reason to ban this, right? Again, like if there's legitimate safety concerns, sure, right? And that's probably going to be on a company by company basis. But to me, like, okay, like this group doesn't want competition. That's not a good reason to like ban the sale of a competitive product that like could end up being like cheaper and better in the long run for your average person.
Yeah, and it could be an experiment in credit farming, right? Because the government could say, hey, you know what we really need to do? Subsidize this new industry over this old industry because it lines up with our paranoia about climate change, and it allows us to manipulate the emotionally crippled 80% of society.
Yeah. I mean, like maybe, but see, like what you're doing though is you're spinning hypotheticals when like the actual reality is that the cronyism is on the side of like big agriculture, right? Like, because like you're always talking about like, oh, there's always money and stuff involved, and I'm always like, oh, I don't know. I think people usually have good intentions, but in this case, they're like, yeah, we're doing this to protect our buddies. Like they're just like out and out. I'm like, oh, okay, so like that's what it is. But like the scenario you paint is like, yeah, maybe like because it's more carbon friendly, which people make the argument, or it doesn't involve animal cruelty. Like progressives could get behind supporting this cause, but like the subsidies haven't come yet. When the subsidies do come, I'm going to be criticizing them right along with you because they will be coming. You're right. Like they will eventually be coming, but like for now, they're trying to squash an industry that doesn't exist. This is just the right-wing version of cronyism. California and New York will get to subsidizing this eventually. So we will be like playing both sides, but
you know what? Like, look, I agree that I'll go down these slightly paranoid wormholes, okay? But I feel rather justified in being skeptical of new products that are approved by the FDA and the USDA, like because I don't trust
Tim.
them.
Just if we abolish them, then we can just have the products.
I would feel
Tim. That's the libertarian position.
Honestly, like I'd feel less reactionary towards cultured beef products if they weren't bragging about how the USDA and the FDA have approved them. Like,
like that. Like that's really the hangout. Like they approve of like all beef sales, right? Like,
yeah, McDonald's burgers, bro. I don't eat McDonald's burgers. We've had that.
I mean,
they I don't think it's meat. I don't.
They're technically fit for human consumption, Tim. It's fine.
Okay.
I think McDonald's burgers are like fine. We've talked about it before. I'm just like it's okay.
Right. And I eat Taco Bell, so I get it,
Yeah.
right? Like there are things that I trust. Like I trust that McDonald's doesn't want Kevin to die from eating one burger, right? And I
Yes.
trust that Taco Bell doesn't want me to die from eating one chicken burrito, grilled cheese with a little bit of those extra crunchy red things in there and some sour cream and stuff. Like it's pretty good. Like I trust that they don't want us to die from that, but I also don't trust them to worry about any kind of long-term relationship with us if we eat their food every day. So I'm not sure that that's particularly rational.
I mean, like, yeah, but like you shouldn't eat like the same food every single day anyway, right? Like,
I know, but it's so good and it's so
yeah,
addictive, right? Because
yeah.
it's
Like again, like
processed
I like Taco
salts and
Bell, but if
sugars.
I ate it twice a day for like years, I would die. Like that's I can't do that, like, but in
Right.
all things in moderation. And I mean, like, and that's again that we're kind of getting off topic a little bit, but like back to the meat thing. Like again, you could if this eventually becomes a thing, if the government doesn't like smother it in the crib here, then we could just use this to like make whatever we're making normally with meat at home if we want to, right? Again, you can buy, okay, so I'm gonna buy my lab grown like 80% lean beef because I want that's
Yeah.
what I want, some ground beef, and I make whatever I'm gonna normally make with it. And I like if I can't taste the difference and like, structurally there's no difference between that and like a cow that was just ground up, like who cares? And if the only and if the difference eventually is like it's a lower price and it was made with some of the fewer negative externalities that come with raising livestock, which there are some. Again, I'm willing to accept those negative externalities now, but like they're not an inevitability. They're not even a necessity long term. Then why shouldn't I be able to choose this alternative that doesn't have those negative externalities?
What are you like suggesting that you should choose for me? Like that's the question.
No, I'm not suggesting I should
No,
choose
no,
for you. Yeah.
I meant that in a general sense. Should that become the democracy version of you get to choose for me because of what you're perceiving as negative externalities? Do you
Yeah,
see what I mean? That's where I see it
but
heading.
you're spinning a
And yes, I
hypothetical
get that
again.
that's conjecture, but
Yeah.
also that cultured meat is good for me is also conjecture, right?
No, I mean, it might be good for you, it might not. Like, I don't know,
Right.
but I should be able to make that choice. Again, I make the choice to like, eat Doritos too, and I know Doritos aren't good for me. Like,
They're
they
not good
taste
for you.
good.
You're right.
No, they taste good though. Like, yeah, I love me some Cool Ranch, but like, um, it's that should be my choice. And again, like I'm always on the side of maintaining choice. If you want to eat the lab grown meat, then great. If you don't want to eat it, then that should also be a choice. Consumers should be able to. And we don't even know at this point if like lab grown meat is ever going to be like scalable or like consumer like ready, right? Like
Sure.
because right now it's not. Like people are talking about like it's a thing that's going to be hitting the market now, and it's really not ready for the market.
Yeah, so $150 for a burger is the price that I'm seeing right now.
Yeah.
That by the time it hits a table at a restaurant, so that's like $100 a pound probably. So
Yeah, like it's just
uh,
it's not there yet. It might be eventually, in the same way like that all innovative products kind of go through an initial phase of being expensive and still needing research and still need to be scaled up, right?
yeah,
But like
yeah,
I don't think anyone should stop your ability though to like either buy beef from a farmer or raise your own chickens or like any of that stuff, right?
sure,
Again, like that to me, like for the most part, the negative externalities of like most meat production are like I am okay with that in
yeah,
terms of like pollution or even like I know there's some people that are very cruel to animals, but most farmers are not. Like
true.
most farmers take pretty good care of their animals. That's what it is. And yeah,
Yeah,
you should be
look,
able to do that. Like, again, I'm going to be on your side when the government's like, actually, in order to protect the earth and save, on carbon and protect blah, 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 like, we're going to ban like factory farming and we're going to ban meat, like conventional meat production. Yeah, I'm going to be against that.
yeah, and I'm already on your side that that this act in Florida is ridiculous. It's absurd. Okay, like that the protection of the U.S. agriculture industry is uncomfortable, but that even worse, banning a product is absurd, right? Like, I'm on the side of choice, and if you want to eat or invest in lab grown cultured meat, which I don't want it to be called meat, but okay, like
I was gonna wait for that. I was like,
yeah,
I know we had
but
discussed on Twitter, like, what should they be labeled, right? Like,
yeah,
and
like,
then what should be called. But you don't think it should be like, if there's a package of this stuff sold, you don't think it should be able to say meat on it.
um, perhaps I would like accustomed to that, but the issue that I have is that we don't even get to know where our meat products that are currently in the grocery store are coming from. We don't know their country of origin. We don't know anything about it. I'm uncomfortable with that. I think that, and it's not so much that it's illegal to label where it comes from. Like, I could, as my understanding is if I try to label something I'm selling in the store as made in the USA food, like, that's illegal. So I don't get to know whether it's comes in on a container ship from 10,000 miles away. I'm uncomfortable with that. I think that the government could add value to society by being a teller of truth, right? Like, saying, all right, like, let's let the market decide, you know? Let's be honest. This is lab grown meat. Here you go. Try it. If you're or not. But I don't think it should be like banned. No, absolutely not.
Yeah,
And also, my own personal discomfort with it is irrelevant there, you know?
Yeah, right. Exactly. It doesn't matter if you don't like it. It's people should have the choice.
Yeah.
And I just look at, I don't think it's illegal to like label stuff like made in USA, meat in USA. There was a problem with some imported meats that were using that label because it would be like mixed with like USA produced products. And then they were labeling it as like produced in the USA when like it wasn't 100% produced in the USA. And that's like a new USDA rule
Yeah.
that
Well,
was happening.
I'll revisit that issue because, again, things get stuck in my brain, but I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure there's a problem with labeling. You don't get the country of origin for your meat product. And I think that we should get the country of origin for our meat product. And I think that U.S.
Yeah, that's
agriculture,
fair.
yeah, I think U.S. agriculture would thrive in that circumstance. I think people would pay extra money for U.S. grown beef if they could label it as such in the store. And I don't think that they can. But I could be wrong. Like, well, look, Massey's Prime Act had some verbiage about this, so I don't know. We'll check it out. We'll
No, we'll look it
revisit
up.
this issue down the road.
Yeah, and so, but I do agree with you though. Like, people should understand what they're getting, right? So if they are getting, lab grown meat, like there should be some term of art that says, like cultured meat product or something, whatever. I still think it should be called meat because people understand what it is. Because like, there's that whole like debate about like, should we ban the term like milk for like almond milk and coconut milk and whatever? And I'm like, this is a stupid debate. And like the dairy farmers are trying to like, protect their corner of the industry because they're like, oh, people are confused and they might be getting the wrong product if you label your oat milk as milk, and they might be thinking they're getting dairy. And like, no, they're not. No one thinks they're getting that. They're specifically not getting dairy by purchasing oat milk.
Like, right. As dumb as society is, almond milk does not confuse them between cow milk. Like, it's just not
at all. They're specifically seeking out a non-dairy product. That's the whole point. All right. Well, anyway, we're out of time for this segment. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're going to be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
I didn't even get to do the USA Today article.
I don't know. We'll do it now.
All right,
we'll mention it at the beginning of the next segment. Just what is it? I haven't seen this one.
All right, so DeSantis panders to ranchers with Florida's lab-grown meat ban. It's bad economics, which is actually a pretty good take, right? Like, I like the way it starts. Every conservative will have the same intuition about Florida's dumb law. If people are willing to try lab-grown meat, there are people willing to sell it, then why should the government interfere? Nick Catagaggio from the Dispatch. gets mentioned in USA Today. His article made it all the way to USA Today. And the article leads in, last week was a bad one for libertarianism. Actually, it's been a bad decade for libertarianism. No, it's been a bad century, a devout libertarian might counter accurately enough. Anyways, so there's 4 mentions right there. This is before we even get into the meat topic, right? So this guy takes a couple shots at the Libertarian Party excitedly announce the people that are going to be speaking, which you and I are going to talk about later. And the Libertarian Party has often been a poor servant to thoughtful libertarianism, which fine. Okay, fine. That sounds like very wishy-washy. Something, but okay. All right.
Yeah,
I'm not.
I mean, I get it's the party, and people have responded to me about this. The party has not always nominated perfectly ideological libertarians.
No.
But it's because it's a party with partisan purposes whose goals are ostensibly electoral, and so
ostensibly electoral, and yet we fail, Kevin.
Yes,
miserably.
Well, we're not even trying anymore.
I know. I absolutely, I agree. But when were we trying? Because running Bill Weld as Gary's sidekick or whatever, were we trying then?
I do think I do think the Libertarian Party was trying then. I think Gary Johnson is like, hey, I have this former governor who's going to run with me. We're going to have enough credibility to actually make a dent. And then Bill Weld, like,
backstabbed us all, right?
Yeah, he kind of did.
All right, so were we trying when we ran Joe Jorgensen?
Sort of. Like,
okay, that's where my hope for the Libertarian Party, and I still like her. I still think she's philosophically sound, and I love Spike Cohen. I love them. Yeah. But like, that's irrelevant of were we trying then or not? Yeah. And that's where my schism formed. That's
were you a delegate in 2020?
No.
Okay, so I was. Okay. And here's my take on the whole Joe Jorgensen thing, is that Joe Jorgensen was like everyone's like safe enough, like second or third choice. Sure. Like, oh, she like people thought of her as like, oh, like she's like the super libertarian mom, and people are like, they kind of like didn't dislike her and think, oh yeah, she seems nice. And again, like, this isn't, I'm not trying to be like mean about Joe Jorgensen. Like, I think people like genuinely liked her and had no reason to. Like, she wasn't polarizing in the way that some of the other candidates were. Like, Jacob Hornberger was kind of polarizing at times. He was like, weirdly enough, he was like kind of the proto Mises guy, and then now like he doesn't get along with those folks. But
he was a very authoritarian speaker.
Yeah, and so you had like him, and you have like Judge Jim Gray, who was supposed to be like kind of a moderate, respectable candidate, right? And
sure.
And then you had Furman Supreme, who, you know, his take was to be entertaining, right? To
absurd,
deliver a message,
entertaining and absurd, which I love. That
it's a lot of fun, you know. And so like you had these handful of candidates who were like, they certainly staked out like a type of candidate that they were. Each one of them was interesting in their own right. Sure. And then not one of them could build enough of a consensus to actually win. And so everyone ended up falling to their second choice, and Joe Jorgensen was everyone's second choice.
That's a problem. Everybody's talking about it finally with our late in the cycle nomination process. I think you and I talked about it a little bit last week. These things are real problems, and we knew enough to not let it happen this year. We talked about it with Mike Termont, right? Like, we knew enough to not let it happen this year, and yet here we are, right? Like, here we are again, late in the cycle right now, you know. It's a problem. It's a real freaking problem. Spike had a good suggestion on Twitter. Like, we need to nominate our candidate ahead of Trump's speech and ahead of RK's speech. I like it.
Right. Well,
so they can run the rebuttal. Our candidate can make sense after these populist authoritarians have the stage. I like it.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that in the third segment. I think we somehow end up on full Libertarian Party stuff, but
yeah.
I don't know. I know, but people have been asking me about that. And someone asked me about local news person asked me about it on Twitter the other day. Like, how'd you guys like follow the irrelevance in 2020? I'm like, well, it's just it ended up going that way because conventions sometimes choose the safest candidate. That's how Joe Biden got elected too. Like, honestly,
yeah, absolutely.
Joe Biden was also like everyone's kind of like safe enough second choice in the Democratic primary.
Right, and with name recognition. They know that name recognition works. And it does, Kevin.
And it worked. It worked for the Democrats. It just didn't work for the Libertarians. It's
true. Well, I did. Yeah. All right. So, what Libertarian has name recognition? That's the issue. Spike Cohen has name recognition. As much as I enjoyed talking to Mike, does Mike have name recognition? Does Lars have name recognition? Like the people that have come to us for conversations, do they have name recognition?
No, I mean, like in terms of like name recognition, like among people who have been pursuing the Libertarian Party nomination, like I think like Chase is honestly probably the most notable.
Yep, he's got name recognition. I agree.
Yeah.
Hi, George.
Hi, George. Hi, George. On Twitter.
How's it going?
Yeah.
Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Thanks for listening. But yeah, and so that's the Libertarian Party that doesn't have like in 2020 and now we didn't have like the heavy hitters, right? 2020, like no one was like, oh, we're gonna do better than Gary Johnson and Bill Weld, two former governors. Like everyone's like, we can't beat that. So like no big heavy hitter step. In 2024, same thing, right? Like it's like Justin Amash is like, nope, I'm out. I'm gonna try running for U.S. Senate instead.
Great move by him, by the way. And again, exactly the kind of person that could, in fact, benefit the GOP because conservatives, constitutionalists, libertarians, small L libertarians, the GOP freaking hates you. Okay, you need to stop pretending otherwise. And a guy like Justin Amash, a guy like Thomas Massey, a guy like Rand Paul. Based Mike Lee has been driving me crazy on Twitter, Kevin. He's off the rails. He's lost the plot, and he was doing so well. I'm just like, what's wrong with this guy? He lost his mind.
No, I mean, like Mike Lee and Rand Paul both do this, right? Like they'll say something really awesome, and you're like, yeah, right, man. This is why I like this guy. And then like they'll say something just totally bonkers, big government, and you're like, wait, what? What happened?
What? It's like. Look, yeah, I can't waste any more energy on that guy.
No, that's
other than how... I am actively mocking him in his comment section. That's it.
That's fair. What more can you do?
I'm gonna straighten him out. I can fix him.
You can fix him. So they all say
the power of the internet, Kevin. I can fix that guy.
Yeah, you're gonna fix them through Twitter harassment. Yes, that's notoriously effective.
Yeah. All right, we better get back.
All right. Yeah. No. Yeah, we should get back. So we'll go back in about 30 seconds.
All right.
And we'll talk about the New York State stuff. We're gonna keep the order that we said we were gonna keep, and talk about all the New York State and local stuff, and then we'll do Libertarian Party stuff again.
All right.
So, all right, we're going to go back in 10 seconds. All right. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson, your host today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
I'm here, brother.
Yeah, and we ended up talking about, Tim had mentioned a USA Today article. We ended up talking about that during the break. We ended up talking about the Libertarian Party for a little bit, the 2020 nomination, like respectability and name recognition of candidates. We didn't do our full discussion on Trump, but somehow we accidentally got on a tangent for a little bit.
Yeah.
But we're gonna pivot from Frank and Meat to some local and New York State news. So, Tim, what do we want to start with?
Well, I'm eager to the people that are listening to the show, to Otsego County residents especially, I want to talk about the fact that yet again we have an example of the government doing things that I just don't agree with, Kevin. Even though ostensibly they're for a good cause, they condemn a building, they kick all of the people out of a building, they take ownership of the building, they sell the building to their friends, and then they get NGOs and nonprofits involved in redeveloping the building that was condemned to the point of where they were going to demolish it allegedly. Like, this is wild. Okay, they stole this lady's property. She had been spending thousands of dollars on it to fix it up, and it drives me crazy. It's a former Oneonta Hotel in Oneonta, New York, and I, there's a certain amount of injustice here that I don't think people understand.
Yeah. I mean, so what would you propose as a better alternative?
That she kept her building
That
and
you
that she
just
she
keep it?
was
Yeah.
renting to people. Right now, there's a
Mhm.
real homeless problem. They kicked people out of her hotel that are now on the streets. That
Yeah.
it's just that simple, you know. So she was actively trying to fix it up. Her and her husband were spending money on it. They were fixing it up. They were caring for their residents. They were providing some supervision, even whatever small amount that they could, right? Um, which were mostly an adult male affected population. Okay,
Mhm.
afflicted population. I think. Should I
Yeah.
spell it right out? Like, I think that they were struggling with alcoholism, drug addiction, things like that.
Yeah.
Um, and so they were in a residence at the Oneon Hotel. They condemn the code office condemns it. They
Mhm.
take possession of it. They evict all of these guys, and they have no backup plan for them to stay. Like, and now they've held on to it for 2 years, and now they're selling it to a non-governmental organization, and they're going to develop it. And
Mhm.
I'm uncomfortable with that. I think that she had made a commitment, and she deserved respect for her commitment.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's understandable. I don't know that situation specifically. Like, I imagine, like, 'cause so I've seen stuff like that happen in the Rochester area, and at first I'm like, "Oh, yeah, it's ridiculous," and then you find out the conditions are actually pretty terrible. I don't know if that's the case, right?
Sure.
That wasn't, hopefully, that wasn't the case, but, like, a lot of times, I think I would err on the side, as you do, of, like, hey, even an imperfect housing situation is better than no housing situation at all,
Correct.
for a lot of people, and I kind of apply that generally, right? Like, because people talk about, like, oh, like, tenement style housing in, like, big cities, and, like, you have these small rooms and shared spaces and stuff, and, like, they're just because they're cheap doesn't mean they're good. I'm like, yeah, well, I mean, for some people, if, like, you are, like, on the cusp of homelessness, or just starting out in a city, or, like, just struggling to get by, a situation where you have a room and a shared kitchen space, and it's small and, like, not the best conditions, is better than living on the street,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
better than the alternative.
Solving
It
problems with options, Kevin, right?
Yeah,
Like, options that people can choose for themselves. That's how you solve real problems.
right.
Force and coercion, regardless of its intended benevolence, is problematic.
Yeah, and the only solution that, like, local and state government and the federal government can seem to find for this type of situation isn't to just, like, let people build this, like, kind of marginal housing, or let people maintain this marginal housing. It's always get the nonprofit in there, or government built housing, right?
Right.
That's like
Right.
that's the only solution they see. It's not like just let people build, like, some of these smaller units. It's, well, we got to get a nonprofit in here, and somehow it ends up costing tens of thousands of dollars per unit to
Yeah.
both, like, build and maintain it every single year. And you're like, how on earth is it this expensive, and sometimes ineffective too? Sometimes they're really great at what they do, right? But sometimes, like, wildly ineffective, and it just becomes like you know just a big trash pile of money burning.
It's a circular economy. The government creates a problem, spends money on the problem, claims success, passes the expenses off to the taxpayer, and says, "Look how good our economy is. We've done wonderfully spending people's money." And hey, look, from an economic standpoint, the only way out of our current spending situation and our current borrowing situation is massive devaluation. And I'm going to talk about that probably every show, every single chance I get. Like, this is a disaster. It's going to happen. It's happening. What am I saying? It's happening.
All right. So I wanted to get a couple other ones in. We got so a few minutes left still.
Let's do it.
I talked about how the assessment for my house went way up.
Yeah.
Like nearly doubled. Mild credit to the city of Rochester. And I think they sort of have to do this, but the taxes are going down to compensate. The taxes are actually going down like 37% in response to like the assessments where everything like doubled in value. So effectively, a lot of folks are going to end up paying the same or less. And this is what happens in a lot of cities. But like, I know I did like a whole segment where I was mad about that.
Sure.
And I was like, oh yeah, but like this might happen. I just kind of threw it out there. I just want to throw it out there to give, again, it's not exactly credit because I think they sort of have to do this.
Yeah.
But to just like acknowledge like, okay, this is how it's going to end up working is, yeah, my house like doubled in assessment value, but my taxes are going down.
So they reassessed a number of properties. They found a bunch of properties that were undervalued according to the assessment rolls that actually drastically impacted a guy like you and probably several other people in your neighborhood whose assessments also rose, but the tax was now assigned differently, right?
Yeah. And so, and again, I think my taxes are still going to end up probably going up a bit.
Oh, okay.
But basically, I'll quote from one of the local news articles, and I'll post a link to it. It said, in all, the residential property tax is planned to drop 37.7% citywide from 17.84 to 11.11 per $1,000 of assessed value. And so this is a WXXI article by Gino Finelli. So I'll share a link just to give credit them from what I'm quoting from.
Sure.
So it is going down a bit though. So depends on how much your house went up. It might go up, might go down. We'll say. I think I probably still end up paying a little bit more, which stinks. But you know, my neighborhood did go up in value. I mean, the houses in my neighborhood, it's like I paid a very reasonable, like very low amount for my house, in fact. But like now there's like 1,000 square foot houses that like look like garbage in my neighborhood going for like $169,000 when they would have gone for like $60,000 10 years ago. So.
All right. See, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's a sign of the devaluation that I'm talking about and a credit-based economy. So I don't know what to tell you.
it's all, you know, because like the neighborhood's so valuable and everyone wants to live here now.
Okay, maybe you moving there changes the direction.
I moved in and everyone's like, man, Kevin's here. Great. Wow, like we got to be near this guy. Like, whatever they're bidding for that house, double it. I went in.
Absolutely. No, and look, neighborhoods do get better over time. Neighborhoods do get worse over time. It does depend on the what luck, fortuity, people being kind to each other, people being cool to each other. That's how a neighborhood gets better. So I'm glad you're in the right neighborhood. Let's in this case assume it's not because of devaluation of the dollar. And how's that sound?
People want to live near all the breweries that are.
And that sounds pretty funky, and that sounds really cool to me. You know.
Yeah. But all right, so yeah, I wanted to bring up that one local thing. And so one other interesting thing I saw is that New York State is there's someone in the New York State Senate who wants to allow liquor stores to sell non-alcoholic versions of alcoholic beverages.
God bless her.
Yeah. And which is illegal right now because New York State, I'll say it's not the dumbest alcohol system because I've been to like Maryland and Pennsylvania and
they're
boy,
dumber.
are they so much dumber.
They are so dumb.
New York State does have an interesting thing where we require liquor and wine to be sold at independent stores. They cannot be sold at grocery stores, and the liquor stores have to be owned by. They can't be a franchise. You can only own one.
Yep.
You can't own a chain of liquor stores. So every liquor store is ostensibly independent.
Ostensibly, right.
Yeah,
But then there's only like 1 or 2 suppliers for liquor, so it's somebody has,
yeah.
some control.
Oh goodness, Patrick on Facebook says try Utah. Yeah, I'm sure Utah
Hey, that
is.
guy's got the same last name as me.
He
That's
sure
crazy.
does.
That's crazy.
Patrick O'Connor there.
Yeah, how
But
does that work?
but in the liquor stores you can't really sell all that much, right? Like including like they can't sell like the mixtures there, they can't sell sodas there, and they can't even sell like the non-alcoholic versions of like, like the I mean there's a whole bunch of different like non-alcoholic products that they could sell, right? Like
Yeah, and it's
non-alcoholic like
a
margaritas or
rapidly
whatever.
growing market, Kevin.
Yeah.
Rapidly.
Yeah,
I don't
can't
know,
sell
is it?
can't sell non-alcoholic beer. You can't sell like the like they have these like non-alcoholic like gins and stuff too, which they're okay, right? Like you
What?
should. Yeah, I don't know. I've had them. Like they're okay. I'm thinking about that. I can't drink alcohol right now, Tim.
Oh, okay. Yeah, never mind. That sounds
Yeah.
really good, Kevin.
Yeah, it's good, buddy. Yeah, no, I'm sure it's
That
great.
sounds awesome.
But like for some people like who don't want it, but they want the taste of this, like I genuinely enjoy alcoholic beer, right? Like
Okay.
I'll say like the non-alcoholic like Guinness tastes like Guinness, right? It tastes
Right.
like it. And sometimes I'm like, shoot, I've had like 6 beers. I cannot have another beer, but I want to like continue drinking something.
Right.
I have an NA beer, right? Like that's how I usually consume those is like, okay, I'm like, at a house party all afternoon and I have to drive. Okay, I can have 2 beers and then I can have, I just drink like my 6-pack of like NA IPAs, right? And that's how it usually goes.
All
And
right.
Tim, you're like, I don't get it. I don't know why you do it.
No, I would say that I went through a phase where I very much limited my alcohol consumption for a few years when I was around 28 years old. I would drink O'Doul's and Pabst Blue Ribbon NA occasionally, but I
O'Doul's is
found that
garbage.
it
It's so
kind of
bad.
just right. It just increased the desire to drink, so I just had to kind of set
Yeah.
them aside too. So I don't know. I mean, whatever. But so let's talk more about what they're proposing to do. They're going to lift the ban on liquor stores selling non-alcoholic beverages to help liquor stores ostensibly.
Yeah.
Is it going to help them? Like I don't know.
Well, again, it's not even like they can sell like whatever they want. They can sell like imitation like gin or like that type of stuff. Like it's specifically like basically non-alcoholic wine, spirits, and mocktails.
Yeah.
So it's not even like they get to sell whatever. And again, you could just, I don't know, like we could just allow grocery stores to sell liquor and like wine and whatever and do what other states do,
Sure.
instead of having this weird, limited system. But I don't know, like any loosening of the laws, like I'm fine with it.
I guess that's where I come down on too. It's irrelevant in a way, but okay, like all right, maybe more people stop in, buy some lottery tickets and a bottle of non-alcoholic wine, and that would be good for my local liquor store that I go visit once every 2 months. Like that. That's fine. That sounds cool.
Like at any time, like we can make it more legal for people to sell what they want to sell. And again, if they want to sell it, great. If they don't want to sell it, then like whatever. It's do what you want to do and do what makes sense for your business. But if some stores feel like there's actually a non-alcoholic bar opening up in my neighborhood, like where this is like all they sell.
Okay.
Is like this type of stuff.
When they go out to fail miserably and crash and burn in 6 months, like, okay, thanks for trying.
Maybe it works. It's
maybe
novel.
it does work.
I mean, again, for like younger people, like a lot of people are like, I really like the taste of craft beer, but like I can't have my like 10%,
It's going to be a haven for black market drug sales, Kevin. I want you to know that, like right now, like the kids are going to accumulate there, and they are going to be like, you know what they're going to be doing.
I think it's all going to be like straight edge like adults who are like, yeah,
What?
like I have kids now and I don't want a hangover tomorrow. Like that's
Honestly, that's crazy. Did you get that? Did you get that statement though?
No.
Anyways, let me put that back up there. I got a comment from my brother out, and
yeah,
he
sorry.
went to Utah, and like you were saying, our laws are messed up. But the last time he got a drink at a restaurant in Utah, a local person had to sign a formal document for it to be legal. Like,
That's
so
hilarious.
we're one of the freer states. I mean,
yeah,
by
weirdly
comparison.
enough, we kind of are, but
And we're better than Pennsylvania and Maryland. Like you got to go to the
yeah,
state liquor store and the state beer
it's gonna be
store
a
to get.
state-run store,
Yeah,
and
like that's real.
like restaurants are weird about serving beer in like Pennsylvania too. Like you gotta,
Nonsense.
yeah. All right. Anyway, we're out of time for this segment. Thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're gonna be back in just a few minutes. Talk to you soon.
All right, that was a fun segment. I had the story about that Oneonta Hotel fresher in my mind back when it happened, because there's an ongoing theme of property confiscation in Otsego County where, like, they took Robert Force's farm because he was a proponent of natural gas and experienced a hardship, and they seized it in short order when they're letting people go for years if they're part of the in crowd, like who toe the line or have history here. It was definitely unfair. They went after him hard, and you know, it. So when that happened at the Oneonta Hotel, it seemed to be the same type situation, and now the city of Oneonta is reselling it. And
Right, and
they've already transferred ownership to somebody else. I'd love Melania to update me on that exact and precise situation, because she's a pretty good communicator. She's fun to talk to, and she still has a buoyancy of spirit regardless of this financial disaster that they forced her into. So arguably,
yeah, I mean, yes, people kind of get coerced in these situations. The government finds excuses to stay right. Sometimes it's a tax thing, right? Where they could give some leniency. They could, let someone keep their property. But if they decide they don't like you, they got tools and options to be able to like make things move quicker than you're able to respond or have the resources to respond. And that's
right. That's why I always pay my property taxes as best I can.
Yeah.
Sometimes I pay them a little bit late, but I mean, I'm like, they probably already don't like me sometimes. So if I just,
I've seen people who will go like years without paying property taxes before like anyone's even like, hey, what's going on?
Yeah.
And other folks, like they seem to rack up like a little bit of property tax debt, and if the city finds the property to be a nuisance or something, they'll seem to jump on it a lot quicker. Or, if you get those like nuisance points, people complain about like people in and around your property, right? Which is like a thing that can happen with that situation you're talking about, Oneonta. Is
Norwich. That was Norwich.
Oh, it's Norwich. Sorry.
Yeah.
But
that's all right.
But those types of situations where you have like, people who are in like halfway house situations or, homeless shelters, they tend to, city governments tend to act on those complaints sometimes quickly, sometimes not, but sometimes they find it to be a problem and they'll just
unfair and unjust enforcement of the laws. And if they don't like you, if they find you politically objectionable, they drop the hammer, Kevin. Like that's what it looks like. Therefore, that's what it is. I'm not giving these guys the benefit of the doubt. I think it's better now. I think the people that were really doing it have since retired. But since it was successful in the past, why would I not suspect that they would do it again?
Yeah.
They will. They have a history now, and a successful history, because Robert Force never got his farm back. He never even got his excess proceeds from the theft of his property. He never it's a shame. It's a freaking shame.
It is. All right, let's grab a couple of these comments before we go to the next minute. Gene says, I live in PA. We can purchase alcoholic beverages in our grocery stores now. congratulations.
Yeah, that's Fetterman's libertarian streak, leading the way. I love that guy, man. I don't care. I don't care that he's a Democrat. He's hilarious.
He's wrong on a bunch of stuff, but he is funny. I don't think I know that was him, right? Was it him?
What?
He did any of it?
No, I don't think he did any of it. I'm just pointing out that I like Don Fetterman. Yeah. No,
I know Pennsylvania used to be really weird. Maryland still government-owned stores, and then Shaylee's talking about Massachusetts. You can find beer at the package store. In North Carolina, counties are allowed to be dry if they choose. There's a lot of states that can have dry counties, and you can still have like dry towns in a lot of areas. Even though effectively, what happens is people then drive a couple miles into the next town to go and drink at a bar or buy their beer, and then drive back.
Yeah,
doesn't necessarily create a safer situation.
No. I grew up in a dry town. Well, I went to high school in a dry town. We would drive to Oneonta to get beer, or we would drive to Sydney to get beer. It was not. It definitely created an unsafe situation.
Yeah, you just okay, cool. You virtue signaled that you don't like alcohol, and then like create a situation where people can easily go elsewhere and get alcohol, and now are on the road after possibly consuming alcohol. Great.
You saw the town in Footloose, right? Like moralist. That's where I went to high school. That town. Okay, like it was like I was like Kevin Bacon, and but I didn't dance. You know what I mean? Like, but still, I was that kid, that outsider kid, who, and me and my brother both went, through it, where the townsfolk did not like us because we're from the big city of Oneonta. Right over the hill, about 7 miles away, but whatever. We were shunned, Kevin, shunned.
Wow.
I have post-traumatic stress from it. No,
I work it out.
Yeah, I'll be okay. That's why I drink MK Ultra, guys.
Yeah.
Google for a local supplier.
All right. Well, on that note, we should probably get back. So let's talk the Libertarian Party stuff.
Let's do it.
All right.
Let's have fun, Kevin.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting segment.
It is gonna be.
Man, I don't know. We'll see. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll go back in about 10 seconds, I guess. 5, 4, 3. Welcome back to A Free Solution. I'm Kevin Wilson today, joined by Tim, the Freedom Variant O'Connor.
I'm here, Kevin. And look, the biggest news of the week, the biggest news perhaps of the Libertarian Party's existence, Donald J. Trump is going to be attending the Libertarian Party convention like in a couple of weeks. He's going there to beg us for votes. It's huge.
It's huge. And you believe this is a good thing.
Arguably, what I think the goal, and I think we fail when we say that the goal of a political party is to get people elected. The goal of a political party is outreach and growth. Okay. So I want to say unequivocally that I don't like Donald Trump. I want to say unequivocally that my libertarian credentials, as imperfect as they are, and as pragmatic as they can be sometimes, are not threatened by Donald Trump coming up and giving us a big, long-winded, rambling speech about how great he is. Like they're not in jeopardy for that. What I see as a net positive is that there's going to be a lot of eyes on the Libertarian Party. Not since Bill Weld ran for vice president have we had this many eyes on us.
Bill Weld and Gary Johnson did bring a lot of positive attention to the Libertarian Party because what they were offering in 2016 was an alternative to Donald Trump for a lot of Republicans and an alternative to Hillary Clinton for a lot of Democrats, because the Libertarian Party said, you don't have to choose between these two bad options. We are not embracing these bad options. We are like offering you something fundamentally different and more respectable than what the major parties have delivered, because they have failed to bring forth good, effective candidates who are standing up for liberty and are going to fight authoritarianism, because that's what the Libertarian Party should offer, is that they should offer that alternative, that we are the only party who are going to fight for liberty, and our candidates are going to fight for liberty. I don't agree with Donald Trump speaking at the convention. I mean,
why does it bother you?
Because I know it's not a threat to, like, it's his being associated, the party being associated with authoritarian candidates like Donald Trump, I think is a threat to the brand of the party. That, again, that's what people are looking for. Like, they're looking for that Gary Johnson figure says, I'm looking for something new and fresh and different. And now you have this dude speaking at the party. Like, I thought, like, I was looking for something different. Why are you having this guy speaking here? Why are you having this guy going and, like, having a pitch to your members at your convention where you're supposed to be offering an alternative to Donald Trump? Again, the Libertarian Party is a partisan organization. That the point, and I know you disagree, but the point is to try to get candidates and then make an impact through elections, with those candidates making an impact with voters, right?
I don't disagree that that's the stated and current goal, and has been the stated.
I mean, it's not the current goal of the current LNC. Their goal is
that we've failed at it miserably, right?
We were making progress in like 2020 and 2021. The current goal of the LNC is to get engagement on social media and get media hits, right? But, like, not all media attention is good media attention. Just because people are talking about us, just because people are talking about us does not mean that we are, like, making a positive impact, right? It doesn't mean we're winning hearts and minds by doing that.
Right, but if they're not talking about us at all, we have no opportunity to win hearts and minds. That's a reality, okay? So Joe Jorgensen, who is a beautiful person and a devout libertarian, did not bring people to the party for us to have conversations with. A conversation with Trump supporters, when arguably what we're going to end up with, and this is where you and I will probably agree, and whether we agree it's a good thing or a bad thing, we will have people that will be calling themselves libertarians but voting for Donald Trump. If they stay as libertarians, perhaps we grew the party. Now, I think that engagement should be the goal of our political. You might be right. I'm not.
I really don't think, like, him speaking there is gonna have a bunch of people suddenly say, "Oh, I want to join the Libertarian Party," because what he said and what the Libertarian Party put out in a press release is join the GOP in fighting Joe Biden. Like, we put out, our party put out Donald Trump's statement in their own press release. Like, it's to join the GOP and fight Joe Biden. Like, are you kidding me? Like, we are running our own candidates. We're undermining our own candidates with, like, putting out that statement. It's ridiculous. What are we doing to our own people? We're cutting their legs out from under them by, like, saying, like, oh, in order to have relevance, we have to have this guy, our opposition, come speak with us,
begging us for attention and votes.
He's not even going to do that. He's going to do, you said, like, he's going to give a rambling speech. I agree with you. That's what he's going to do. He's going to talk about himself. And like, I'm sorry, like our friend Sean commented and he says, if the LP can get him to commit to free Assange, it's the biggest win in party history. But my brother, he was the president. He could have done that.
He could have done
that. He could have done it. He had 4 years to do that. Instead, he talked about, like, how he should be, like, prosecuted harder. Like, what on earth would get him to change his mind to, like, really do that? And even if he did commit to doing that, like, the dude says different things on any given day, depending on what audience he talks to. Like, there's nothing to be gained from this. I mean, like, other than, like, making, like, people mad about it. Like, Gene said, I'm pissed about Trump being at the Libertarian Convention. Like, mostly it's people in the party being like, what are we even doing here?
Look, I'm going to go again, and now I'll repeat it again, and arguably perhaps this becomes nonsensical. We want engagement. We want eyes on us because we know, Kevin, that we're right. We know that the areas where Donald Trump did okay, we know the areas where Donald Trump failed miserably. Everybody can understand those things. But that we need a platform to do that. We need people to talk to do that. I get being concerned, but it's like you not being concerned about people getting fooled by cultured meat. I'm not concerned that people are fooled by Donald Trump. They see him as the opposition to the state of the things that are going on in our country. They see, doesn't matter that he's horrible at it, doesn't matter that he's really bad at it, doesn't matter that he ended up complying with every demand that they made with the COVID regime. Okay, doesn't matter. They still see him as opposition to them. Now, we're much better as opposition to them than he will ever be.
Okay, first of all, who's them? Like,
which them? I mentioned several thems, Kevin.
Yeah, you said I know. Like which them? You're like
the deep state.
People see him as opposite.
We have an autocratic system, right? Don't you think? We have
no, but like
agencies that write regulations. That's autocratic. We have a House of Representatives that gets to vote on bills, and rules are suspended. They're not doing the job of legislating. That's autocratic. Like, it's not an autocratic person, it's an autocratic system. So them, the deep state, those systems that are ruling us without our consent and without our representation having impact on it. That's what I mean. Them.
Right. Okay. But I don't think that most people really see Donald Trump as opposition to that. Like I really don't. Like I certainly don't. Like he is a creature of that same system, right? Like and again, what the Libertarian Party is supposed to offer is the alternative to that. The alternative to Donald Trump's cronyism or Joe Biden's cronyism. Like, we're supposed to be the ones who are saying, like, no, we have a fresh voice and we can actually like oppose this system of government perpetuated by both parties, specifically the people at the top of the parties like Donald Trump and Joe Biden. And like, we need something fresh. We need something new. And again, like what the ideas for doing that, like there are different like strategies for being able to engage in that level, but I don't think it helps us in any way. Like, and by us, I mean like small L libertarians in any way to engage with like someone who's an authoritarian, like in this manner. And I know, like, I got a comment from Sean here on YouTube. He says, I don't want eyes necessarily. I want influence. Like, that would be great. I don't think that's going to happen. Like, Donald Trump, even the people in Donald Trump's close orbit have not been able to effectively influence him not to be like an authoritarian. I've got to not swear here, but like not to be someone who is going to make foolish moves and concentrate his own power and end up building up the deep state that he says he opposes, right? Like, and I think it's naive to think that him speaking at the Libertarian Party is going to do anything other than make people assume that libertarians are in the bag for Trump, because that's going to be the headline. The headline is just going to be Donald Trump speaks at Libertarian National Convention, and no one will read past that headline. They're just going to do that. And then when we're out collecting signatures, to Gene's comment here on Facebook, now we'll be seen as Trumpsters at a time when I'm collecting signatures for ballot access. Like, my goodness, like if I were running for office this year, I would have to explain that to everyone. I mean, the signature process is going to end before this, but if I were running for office afterwards, I'd be like, oh, aren't you the party that like just basically endorsed Trump? And I'd be like, no, he just spoke at the convention. They didn't endorse him. Our candidate is so-and-so. But most people aren't going to understand that. They're just going to see, here's a party that supported Donald Trump. That's all the headlines are going to end up like conveying, because Tim, the mainstream news media is not our friend. We know this.
They never have been our friend.
That's all they're going to, especially when Donald Trump's involved.
Beat them at their game is to get eyes on guys like you, guys like me, people like Sean, people like Gene, people like Shelley, people like Patty. That's the only way to do it. And we're not doing it. I think that that's a reality that we have to accept. I want it to be philosophically pure. I want us to offer the Javier Milei, but better. Okay, I want us to offer that.
Should have had him.
Who is that? Where is that?
I mean, like, gosh, they're all alternatives out there who are like gaining steam. Like someone like Spike Cohen is great. Like,
absolutely.
He's funny. He's an activist. He's interesting. Like, find ways to draw more attention to the people doing like actual, like impactful good work, right? Like, and that is tough. Or, start by building a bench of people, which again, the party was trying to do in 2020 and 2021. Like, I know people didn't see it, in some libertarian spaces, but they were electing state representatives. They were working on like those state level races to try to like make an impact there. So you have the bench. So then you have the credibility to run legitimate candidates for governor and then eventually legitimate candidates for president. Like that was a strategy that they tried. And then they threw it out the window in 2022 and said, screw it, we're going to just like work on social media engagement and media hits. And that's it. That's like the only metric now that they care about. And they're like, oh, we're influencing the conversation. No, like the conversation is now like how we're associated with Trump. Great. Like, how's that helpful in any way?
I've already explained it. The failures are that we didn't get Larry Sharp on the ballot. The LP had an opportunity to help us there. They did not. That wasn't the 2022 executive committee. That was the 2020 executive committee. That's a reality. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a huge, massive failure there, Kevin. And I've been disappointed ever since. And I think that this argument of, yeah, okay, I get it, man. Actually, I get the argument about Trump. I get it. I'm ready to say to anyone that's willing to discuss this with me that him showing up at the convention doesn't change a thing about libertarianism. He's not a libertarian. He's never been a libertarian. He did like two things that were arguably libertarian, and then he caved. All right. So he's a populist authoritarian. And yeah, he spoke to us to beg us for votes. Perhaps we're the kingmaker.
Maybe. I mean, he thinks so because the Joe Jorgensen got enough where it split the gap between him and Joe Biden, right? So like that's Joe Jorgensen, who like people talk about her campaign. We were talking about her campaign wasn't successful in a previous like break, but and
I wasn't not successful though. I don't want to be unfair.
No.
Like you know what I mean? But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah. But people think of that campaign as like not very successful, and fair or not, and Donald Trump thinks, oh, I can grab some of these folks. And we haven't even talked about like RFK inviting Trump to a debate at our convention, which we're going to have to save for the after show. But like,
right.
I said, like, honestly, like Sean posted, the audience will be booing. Like, yeah, they probably will in some cases. Like the best case scenario is that Rachel Maddow like includes a clip of people booing Trump. Like, the libertarians booed him. Okay. Anyway, like on to like how much like we want to grow government. Okay. Like that's like the best case scenario to me, but like we're gonna keep this conversation going, but we have to end the WYSL show. WYSL, go find our podcast if you want to hear this conversation and see where else it goes, because we got to talk about RFK maybe joining the convention as well. What a week, folks. All right, thanks again for joining us here on A Free Solution. We're gonna be back next week. Have a great night, folks. Take care. All right. Might have gone over a little bit. I'll figure it out.
That's beautiful, man. That was passionate. That's good. I think the world deserves Kevin and Tim being passionate once in a while,
Yeah.
We try to be very pragmatic. We try to be very like, I don't want to say middle of the road, because we're definitely not middle of the road. We're like anti-authoritarian. We're anti-big government. We have solutions. We have opportunities. I mean, honestly, I feel bad about the times I've been complimenting my local government recently. I just want to take them all back. But, so this is interesting. RFK may, in fact, show up.
He says he's showing up. He has invited Donald Trump to a debate. This people are kind of talking about it like it's a thing that's definitely happening. It's not definitely happening yet. And the problem, so one of the problems, and Sean is correct. Sean is correct that there's no evidence of a coronation for either Donald J. Trump or RFK Jr.
Yeah, there will be no evidence of that, right?
Right. So what it is right now, just at the back, is Donald Trump and Joe Biden were invited supposedly to speak at the convention, although there's some people saying like Trump reached out to us first, and then we kind of backtracked into we're going to invite all the candidates. But I don't know about that. But so he's going to speak. He's going to be speaking before our candidate is actually nominated,
which is a mistake on our part. We have to fix that. We can, can't we?
Yeah, I mean, like either the current convention committee could fix that, or the delegates could fix it on the floor because they could motion to modify the schedule essentially. So they should fix that, right? If you're going to have an opposition candidate speak there, like the literal least you could do is to have our candidate, when maybe the media is still there, give the rebuttal immediately after Donald Trump's speech and hope that the cameras stay on. Like that's like one of the better case scenarios, right?
Yeah.
Like our candidate
that's a great
gets
scenario
to do that. RFK has said, I'm going to show up and I want to debate Donald Trump, right? Now, if they have a debate at our convention and we don't even have a candidate yet, like if we are such losers that our own libertarian candidate can't get into a debate at the Libertarian convention, then what the hell are we even doing here? Right?
That's actually a pretty powerful point. Either no debate or our guys on the floor as well.
Yeah, exactly. Like again, like
I could be disappointed if they allow a debate between RFK and Donald Trump on the floor of the Libertarian Party convention, like without our guy being involved. I could be disappointed. I'm already disappointed in the LP, Kevin. I'm not going to lie. Like I've already been clear about that. I'm not. I am not as disappointed with the Mises Caucus takeover as so many other libertarians, but I'm also not a Mises guy per se. Like it's not me, but I'm there, like I'm there. I am excited. Like I am excited by this opportunity to once again differentiate myself from my friends and re-explain to them that guns that will write red flag laws that will lock them in their homes because of a pandemic that was not a threat to them, that he will abrogate responsibility for making a product and then fund that product with government money, that he will spend trillions of dollars in monetary theory, like adhere to modern monetary theory, just like every other psychopath that's been in charge in this country, that he will do all of those things. And that when it costs him $8 for a cup of coffee at Dunkin' Donuts, it's because they voted for those guys, that system. All right. They didn't step out of that system. Now, will that be successful? I can already see that maybe it won't. You know what I mean? I can see my emotionality may not carry the day, but at least I'll have some laughs.
Right. And that's all we're really looking for in the end.
Honestly, at this point, that's all I got,
I might as well have some fun with it.
It's a rough spot to be in because I agree. Okay, I agree that any libertarian candidate, even an unnamed libertarian candidate that we don't even know is there at the convention, would be a better president than Joe Biden, Donald Trump, RFK, Cornel West,
Jill Stein,
Marianne, whatever, blah, 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 et cetera, right on down the line. Some guy changed his name to anybody but them or something like that.
Right.
Any libertarian would be better than them because they actually have principles, right? Even if I don't like their take on woke ideology, like they're still a libertarian, right? And that's better. Like that would be better. That's a principled, non-force take. The government is all force right now. All force. Coercion, corruption, and devaluation. Yeah. I feel special right now. How do you feel? I'm just saying, man. I'm kind of losing it a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sean agrees with us. See, if there is a debate, it would be absurd to not have an LP candidate there.
No, it's like honestly, like if they host a debate between Donald Trump and RFK Jr. and the Libertarian candidate isn't involved, like I'm done with the party. Like I'm like seriously, like this is the stupidest thing.
That would be crazy. That would be nuts.
Okay.
No, that would be bonkers, dude. That would be crazy. That would be a complete sellout of what we have to offer, right? That we sold our souls for. Yeah, no, we can't happen that way. Can't happen.
So like it's got to, like I don't even want a substitute of like I know like Spike Cohen's offered to like be the stand-in or Dave Smith and like no, but like they're not the actual candidates. It's not the same. Like we need our actual candidate to be the person on the stage. Like it's not an acceptable substitute. And it's not even like a disagreement thing. Like with Spike or Dave Smith, it's we need our candidate to be on the same level as Donald Trump and RFK Jr.
That's the least that could happen, right? Like I said, I would be even more disappointed than I already am with the LP. But my time frame is longer than the Mises Caucus. Like I'm disappointed. I think, like you said, Gary Johnson was not that bad of a candidate. Like that was actually a good move. And having Bill Weld also was what ostensibly or originally or the intent was really good. Like all of that is true.
And I was a delegate in 2016. I was down there in Orlando. Like I supported Larry. He was you know, we're fighting to get Larry in that VP role. And Bill Weld was the one who did it, right? Like it's
sure.
But I get the reasoning why Gary Johnson wanted to do that. I understand it.
Because a campaign war chest is a campaign war chest, Kevin. Free speech ain't free, bro. Like
he brings money. He brought money and credibility, right? Like that was what the idea was. And
credibility is weird because he shot his own credibility.
He did. No, he totally ruined. Like how Gary Johnson could have known that. The delegates who were like good with Bill Weld initially could have known that. And I've talked to a bunch of people who were like, yeah, if I'd known he was going to vouch for Hillary Clinton in October, like, no, I wouldn't have supported the guy.
Right. Exactly. Because that was a betrayal that we didn't expect. He had done some libertarian things, right?
Yeah.
Like he professed a certain adherence to libertarianism and then did that. Okay. Like, wow, man. Wow. You know what I mean? Like, that was, was that a design play? Was it compromised? Like, I don't know, but it was gross. Like, regardless, it was that gross.
Yeah. Like my assumption is like he thought that like he would pull more votes from the Republican side and, you know, stop Donald. He really didn't like Donald Trump. Really wanted to stop him. I think that's what he thought was going to happen. And then, as libertarians always say, we pull equally from both sides, all the sides, and you know, it's looking like it was not going to help Hillary Clinton, and starts talking about how he likes his friend.
Great.
Yeah, so not great, but anyway, like either way, like I hope this turns out well for the Libertarian Party. I'm skeptical though. Like really, like I thought that the weird, also like the weird selling of like Donald Trump T-shirts too, which the party did for like a day. I assume either like they got so much negative feedback from that, and or the Trump campaign put out a cease and desist. That's why they pulled them down. Because they're selling the ones with like the hair, and they would say things like "Free Assange" and like, okay,
yeah, no, that look, and again, I think one of the most important points you made was that Trump had an opportunity to counter the whistleblowers from the state that were making them look like a fool with real whistleblowers who did hard work, put themselves at risk, and he didn't. He did nothing on their behalf, and that's embarrassing. Like,
he didn't pardon Snowden. He didn't free Ross. He didn't end the wars. He didn't really pull back the regulatory state all that much. In fact, increased it in many areas.
Yeah.
The one area he did roll back the regulatory state a bit was with FDA vaccine approval, but a bunch of folks on the libertarian side didn't like that for some reason.
I still have this theory, Kevin, that one of the things that caused money to really mobilize against him was that he rolled back the restrictions on importing our own intellectual property protected drugs from importing them from other places in the world. That is a major gravy train for our elected political class. He rolled it back. we were, for a short period of time, able to buy our drugs like that have been developed in America by American companies. Okay, it's like our drugs, but whatever, at a
Yeah.
substantially reduced rate. That was, I don't know, like I don't feel suicidal, but when I bring this up, I get a little nervous. You know what I mean? It's like the pharmaceutical company has a lot of money. 2 Boeing whistleblowers, bud, gone, extinguished.
It's a little suspicious.
It's
So,
just
a little bit,
just
a
a
bit
little suspicious.
weird. No, what happened there?
Hmm.
um,
Oh, I did find something. Look. I found a platform or an idea or a concept, and I wanted to run it by you tonight on the show of what I should start a fight with Dave Smith over and see if I can get him to retweet me. All right. He was a big fan of, I think it was Mark Victor withdrawing from the race to get Blake Masters elected in
yeah,
Arizona. He was a big
yes,
fan of
Arizona
that.
Senate. Yeah,
And I want to say he arguably persuaded Mark Victor to withdraw from the race, and Blake Masters still lost. If Mark Victor had stayed in the race, we could be like, see, don't mess with us. Either move towards liberty or we're going to ruin it for you. And we
Yeah.
can't say that now
I
because
mean that's
we
kind
proved
of
that
like
we were ineffectual.
yeah, that is actually like a pretty legitimate libertarian strategy is to say
Yeah.
like, look, we will play spoiler, fine, like
Yeah.
either
We're looking
co-opt our
forward to it.
positions, either co-opt our positions, or people are gonna choose me as an alternative, and you're going to lose. Take my positions. Again, I would love to see Donald Trump actually do that. It would be great if he would do that and actually follow through on that stuff. I just don't think he will because we're not
Because you don't
like
trust him.
guessing what his presidency is going to be like.
We know.
We had 4 years of it already. And I'll read Sean's comment just to give him is that the LP
My
would
God,
get
Kevin,
credit
that's a
for
fair
pushing him
counter.
over the edge if he follows through on anything committed at the convention. Worldwide acclaim and gratitude for the party would follow. If he did do those things, great. I think we will get absolutely zero credit for that.
Sure.
Even if he does, like the left-wing media will be like, Donald Trump's doing the next crazy thing because they are just completely hooked on what you call negative partisanship. Like
Sure.
whatever Donald Trump is, they do the opposite. Like that's just what it is. And the right will be like, Trump is such a genius. It's so great he thought of this on his own. Like that's going to be the narrative. Like
Yeah.
That's-
Arguably the mainstream media's impact is declining. The alt media, which is going to attend, like Sean had pointed out earlier, going to attend this LP convention now. We're going to raise money off of this. It's going to be very interesting.
We'll see.
I've been meaning to ask you too. And I wanted to bring it up during the show because actually Larry has an impact on the WSL audience. He has, are you aware of this? Collaborated with Lars Mapstead and is now the vice presidential candidate for Lars Mapstead as part of
the preferred.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I know it's a strategy to try to like help people understand who you would prefer to be running with ahead of time. Makes it seem like your team, you're working together, you're now doubling your efforts. For folks who are uninitiated, I mean, as we kind of talked about, the president and the vice president candidates are selected separately. So a presidential candidate does not necessarily get to choose who their VP is. They can state a preference, but the delegates could decide differently.
Yeah.
I doubt that they would decide differently in this case if Lars won. Larry is a pretty well-known and popular guy. I'm sure he would take it. But it's interesting.
What if Larry's everybody's second choice? They're comfortable, old school, name recognition libertarian. Could he end up getting the nomination from
for president?
Yeah.
Well, I don't think he's running though, as far as I'm aware. Other than the fact that I think he's on the ballot in New York, but
I don't think that you do. I think according to the bylaws of the LP, they can nominate whomever they want, but I'm not saying that they would. But
yeah, he would still have to accept, right?
Right. Okay, fair enough.
You know, like you could switch, you know, like and say, yeah, I'm going to do that, but you know, I think Larry is really good at being in that support role too. Like, I mean, obviously he was a great governor candidate. But he's also good in being that support role. He can be the attack dog. He can be the guy raising money. Like, that's how he made his case way back in 2016. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting again. Good for Lars and getting him on his team, and I wish him the best of luck.
Arguably, I had a conversation on some sort of YouTube podcast with a bunch of people. I think that Lars's bankroll is the biggest. So
Yeah.
arguably, and Lars is cool, and Lars is definitely.
Yeah, we had him on.
We had him on the show, and I liked everything he had to say. I was struggling with internet connectivity issues, so I didn't get to mess with him at all or ask him any questions. Well, I asked him one or two, and we had a nice conversation before the show. So I really like him. So that's great. You know, we'll see how this goes. We'll see what direction it goes in.
Yeah. Sean says, do you think any of these candidates would be nominated from the floor of the convention? Donald J. Trump, RFK Jr., Dave Smith, and/or Spike? Yeah, I think.
Yeah. All of them. All four of them.
Yeah, all four of them. Someone's gonna like it. It doesn't seem like Dave Smith was initially going to run for president, and dropped out. Made clear that is not what he wants to do, like for personal reasons, and maybe that changes, and he's like suddenly gonna run a dark horse campaign, but doubt it. Same with Spike. It seems like he just
Dave Smith does Legion of Skanks. All right.
Yeah.
I love Dave Smith. I like Dave Smith, however you want to phrase it. But Dave Smith does Legion of Skanks.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Ends it. There's no way for him to become a populist figure running for president. It would be, and despite his brilliance and his articulateness, is that even a word? Anyway, despite his ability to be articulate, the issue is that there's the way that politics gets played. I don't think it would end well.
No, I don't think so. I mean, for like a bunch of I'll say this: Dave Smith is like one of the best, and by best I mean most aggressive debaters I've ever seen. I actually think legitimately like good. See, he's a bulldog. Like when he does stuff. I mean, like I listened to him on the Just Asking Question podcast and Reason, and like, man, I was so mad because I fucking hated his arguments on immigration. Like it made me like angry listening to him. But the guy he was debating with like was just so useless. Like, oh my God, just like actually argue with him. Like, and he's a good debater. Like he's good at like just hammering home his point and putting things in simple terms. Good at that.
He does great work with analogies too. He's one of the most impressive. Like he constructs analogies that work.
Like his arguments are really bad, but like they're very convincing. Like for someone who's receptive to that, because like it's just, he's just a good debater.
As always, you and I have like this little difference here. I think that Dave is not only a good debater, but does a good job expressing a lot of libertarian ideas. And when he takes on an issue, like
full right winger on immigration, no, like I'm just
okay. I could see where
like
you would
very much disagree with him. Like, he's.
I could see where you would want to that. I understand. Because I understand your position on immigration. I understand my position on immigration. Neither one of our positions on immigration match exactly what he's saying, but his arguments on immigration are persuasive. Like you said, that he's a good debater. Like, I get it. You know.
Yeah. So like he's a lot of fun to listen to.
Oh, he is. He's great.
So I just found the arguments like infuriating, and that I found his opposition just so ineffectual, just so weak. It's just making nerdy, like, you know, intellectual arguments that like didn't really get to the heart of it. Anyway, I don't want to debate that.
Yeah, no, I get it.
Spike Cohen too, great. He seems to be focusing on his activism, and that's great. Like he can make an impact there. His like "You Are the Power" stuff like is I think making a big difference in a lot of cases, and he raises a lot of awareness about like good issues. And then people are going to throw out Donald Trump, especially RFK. Like actually, I think several state chairs said they support RFK. They put out a letter recently, which is interesting.
There is a legitimate divide going on. I liked the fact that RFK got into the fray. I would not vote for him. I like could see me voting for if how would I say it? Like if somehow Vivek Ramaswamy made more sense on some of his weird takes when it came to like going to war at the Mexican border and going to war at the Canadian border was kind of weird shit. Like that was fucking weird. Okay. If he hadn't have said that stuff, I would have preferred him over RFK, and doesn't matter because I would still vote for a real libertarian. Do you see what I mean? So I don't know.
But so definitely get those, especially Donald Trump and RFK if they end up having a debate afterwards. Yeah, because then there's going to be a big push to that. Also, I'd be worried about credentialing issues and stuff too. If you have like the previous event open to the public, like it's just
Yeah, I hate any kind of discussion about. I can't even say it right. Like these minutia of party operations. I don't. It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
So, okay.
It's a real issue they're gonna have to deal with. I want to open up the discussion on that. I'm just saying it's gonna be a thing.
Yeah, I wouldn't even know what to say because every time I hear it, my brain shuts down. When we start, like, I almost couldn't even finish the sentence. I couldn't find words.
So Gene posted this twice, so I won't get to that. Trump didn't end wars, but at least he didn't start any new wars. Yeah, I don't really give him full credit for that though, because he kind of did escalate a few wars though that were existing. Like he escalated the conflict in Yemen. He escalated bombing in Syria, and he absolutely could have pulled out of Afghanistan, and didn't. Like it's,
no.
I see what you're saying, Gene, but like on like the war front, like honestly, in the bar is super low on this, so understand like what I'm saying. Joe Biden did better, only because the last presidents before him were so bad.
Okay, but it's hard to deny that Joe Biden is ostensibly funding a lot of military aggression all over the world. Like
Oh, sure.
So
so was Trump. Trump was giving aid to Ukraine too, and so was Obama.
But the level has gone off the charts, and
yes,
I'm fine if we wanted to hang some of that around Trump's neck. I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
like that is not a problem for me. But
the military aid gravy train was like still chugging along in the Trump years, the Obama years, definitely the Bush years. The Joe Biden again, like small, and the only reason I'm giving him credit at all is because again the bar is extremely low. Is that he reduced the number of drone bombings that happened and actually like ended the war in Afghanistan, right?
Fair enough.
So he actually did those things, like actually made progress on like pulling back on like unnecessary conflicts. Escalated Ukraine, but actually did some tangible things to get like U.S. troops home. Donald Trump had the opportunity to do that and didn't. In fact, escalated in a lot of situations. So no, I can't give Trump any credit for that.
I wonder what he would say to that. Like that would be a good question for you to post, like to the LPNY page. Also, I want to shout out to Gene's fingernails, black and gold, very libertarian looking. Nice. I love it.
And Shelley said something similar to us. I give credit to Trump for not starting a new wars, and that's it. I don't.
I understand where you're coming from. I understand where they're coming from. Yeah, Sean was. I was comparing DJT's pussy quote to Dave Smith's Legion of Skanks baggage. DJT broke the matrix of political decorum. I don't think the Skanks thing matters as all. Arguably, I still think for a third party candidate struggling for relevancy, I'm not saying it would be a nail in the coffin, but it would be a nail in the coffin. That's what I'm thinking. There's a lot. There'll be a lot of nails. You know.
Dave Smith, he has some baggage with that stuff, right? And it's like for anyone who's right, like so for anyone who like doesn't care about that stuff, they're for the most part are in Donald Trump's camp. Not always, but like for the most part they are.
Who's that?
And then
Wait, what?
So for anyone who doesn't care about Donald Trump's like crassness. Right?
Oh, okay, got you. Yeah,
like most of those folks are probably already in his loyally in his camp. For like people who are centrists, like I think like some of Dave Smith's stuff would have turned people off if he ran for president, right? Like it's and like he also has interviews with like people like Nick Fuentes, and you know like there's some stuff out there that I think like centrists and anyone like even mildly left of center that a typical libertarian candidate would be able to like pull in a few of those. He would lose them, right? Again, he's not running for president, so it's kind of a moot point.
Right.
And
I could see him doing it down the road. He is probably the most popular libertarian outside of Javier Milei, I guess, if we're just talking populist stuff. But
right, yeah, he is.
Spike probably second.
Yeah.
So and Spike is kind of a beautiful person, right? Like it just kind of stays consistent, doesn't get dragged, makes good suggestions, and I don't ever get a sense of maliciousness from him. Like I'd never get it, you know?
Yeah. All right. So we spent a ton of time talking about LP Inside Baseball. You know, we totally got to wrap up because we totally missed out on something. Like we didn't talk about Kristi Noem. We didn't talk about Kathy Hochul, like thinking that black kids in the Bronx don't know what a computer is.
I was going to throw that into the middle of the show. I had an opportunity. It started bouncing around in my head.
Yeah.
I was like, I gotta say this.
Yeah, but you know, I will end with one question, Tim. If you were walking alone in the woods, would you rather run into a bear or an armed agent of the government?
Honestly, I think. All right, I'm gonna go with if I'm in New York and the Adirondacks, I would definitely rather run into a bear by about 1 million. Like,
but if you're like in Alaska or something, like
in Alaska, I'd be like, I watched Alaskan State Troopers. Those guys are actually pretty cool. So I'm gonna be like, all right, in Alaska, I'd rather run into an armed federal agent, but in New York, I would much rather run into a bear.
Think you can win a fight with a black bear?
I don't think I would have to win a fight with a black bear based on my knowledge of how black bears behave. But yeah, I could kick a black bear's ass, not a grizzly.
A grizzly, no, that's
no grizzly. No freaking way.
No, absolutely not. Like I said, a black bear would probably just run away, right? Like
correct.
But they're not. They're big. They could definitely still hurt you, but they're not as big as you think and not as tough as you think. But like almost any other type of bear, like well, not almost every, but like definitely a grizzly bear, definitely a polar bear, 100%. Like they're gonna kill you. Like just zero chance. Like if a black bear came after me and like I was fighting it, like there's a non-zero chance that I could win that fight.
Right.
It's still not great, but like there's a possibility I could win that fight.
Sure. Okay. So look, that I would not willingly fight a black bear. I would not go out of my way to fight a black bear. I arguably think that I would scare it away based on
you're scared away.
The fact that I walk on 2 feet.
That's what they're gonna do. They're not.
If a rabid black bear was coming at me, I would just run. Right.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And so that again, if for those of you who aren't chronically online, this is kind of a joke spin on a question posed and fought over by two kind of insufferable groups on the internet of like, what would you rather as a woman or would you rather your daughter run into a bear in the woods or a random man? And you can go look it up if you want to like read angry comment sections. I'm not going to rehash it. So, but yeah, the point of it isn't to fight the bear or the man, but I'm just saying I might be able to win a fight with a black bear.
Might.
If the black bear wanted to fight, which it wouldn't, probably wouldn't.
I saw a black bear on my way home from work.
Says,
Black
black bear won't mess with you unless you fuck around and find out.
It was pretty big.
Yeah.
Like it was big. It couldn't
Big.
fit under a guardrail. And it wasn't like it didn't really want to jump over the guardrail. So I got to watch it maneuver a guardrail situation. And I was just like, looks pretty strong, looks kind of coordinated. Overall, I would just let it go its own way. Am I close to its cub? As I see its cubs, I'm running away from its cubs.
Get back out of there. Like, don't mess with it. Most bears, they ain't gonna want to mess with you. Except for polar bears, they absolutely will mess with you. They are.
Yeah, grizzlies do. Like grizzlies are as bad as polar bears, I think.
Yeah, but I've seen that grizzlies are like, or polar bears.
Polar bears.
They're definitely like. There's not that much food where they live, so people are food. They'll definitely do that.
You definitely look like food to them. I would. Yeah, that's fair. All right, brother.
All right. And Sean says, be sure to check out the Cuomo interview today. It's a doozy. I'll just leave that. I'll have to look that up. Thanks for your tip.
Me too.
Thanks,
brother.
All right, cool.
Thanks, Shelly.
Yep. Thanks everyone for listening. Have a great night, folks.
Thanks, Gene. Whoever George is.
Yeah. All right. Have a great night, folks. Take care.
My brother Pat.